Friends, this is Sri Hari. Thanks for joining, and I hope you are having a good morning, good afternoon, or evening. We are about to start our excellent show today, and this is about an organization called Friends to Support. It is the largest blood bank in India, and we are going to hear from people who are behind this amazing effort. And today our host will be Usha. Usha, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, please go
Hello. Hello, friends. We are today going to speak to three people, very inspiring personalities in their own right. One is Mr. Ramesh Susarla, who is a senior journalist, and one is Mr. Sharif and Lakshmi Katyayani. Ramesh and Sharif are the founders of an extremely interesting and first of its kind probably a project where they are trying to create an essential platform for people who are looking for blood and people who are willing to donate blood. So thereby, I think they are probably filling an extremely crucial gap in our healthcare system. Something all of us, would have come across at one point of time or the other. If we are less fortunate, probably in our own family, or maybe we would have come across instances of people looking for blood and all that. So in this context, we are now going to talk to Ramesh Garu, Sharif Garu, and also Katyayani, who has been an active volunteer and now she is in the US. So I hope all three of us, all three are online right now.
Yeah. I am Ramesh. I am there online.
Yeah, okay. Ramesh Garu, we'll start with you, and then I think maybe Sharif Garu and Katyayani can chip in whenever they feel need to add something, and whoever is the best person to answer each question. We have a whole battery of questions because it is something that deeply interests all of us. First question is, what are the essential blood-related issues that we should know? I mean, everybody should know. What are the main issues?
The main issue, blood-related issue is, for a layman, he must be ready to donate blood. He should not shy away from donating blood. Unfortunately, in our country, in India, majority of the people do not donate blood even for their close relatives. But in a way, that's a boon in disguise because blood is, it's not good to donate blood to your blood relatives, close relatives. But you should be donating to your friends and other people outside, whoever is in need. Okay. So with that as a need, this particular platform, this is not a blood bank as it was announced. It is just an information service, online information service of voluntary donors who are ready to donate blood at any time when they are called for.
So you just have a database where people can seek donors and also people can donate. I mean, they can volunteer to donate.
Yeah, they can volunteer to donate also. And this is the largest database in India which has been recognized by Limca Book of Records and other agencies. And also it received the United Nations award, including one from India also, from Department of Information and Technology, Sam Pitroda, headed by Sam Pitroda way back in 2007.
Oh, okay.
So, but unfortunately, this though we are doing this service, we should not have been doing it. We are forced to do it because the government is not doing it. The government should have been doing this, and I think they have plans to start some kind of website now this year.
Okay. Ante mundu, Mr. Ramesh, we would like to understand what exactly is happening as far as blood donation, blood supply is concerned in India. Because in our healthcare settings, what exactly are the issues? So to start with, what do you think why do people shy away from donating blood? They are repeatedly told that it's a safe process, it's not going to cost them anything, it's not going to cause them any kind of health, physical damage. In spite of that, what do you think makes people shy away from this?
Yeah, it is basically the family pressure. The family pressure which doesn't allow them. First thing, a mother is very protective and does not allow its young child to donate blood, because the World Health Organization also wants fresh blood, a young blood to come into the total pool of donors. That's people between 18 and 25 or 30. That is the age group at which the WHO is looking at. It's targeting the world over at this group which can donate, because day in and day out we are finding several problems cropping up, health problems cropping up for people beyond this age group. From 30 onwards, whether you have high BP or sugar or high sugar levels, or in some cases HIV also. So such things have lower rate of incidence in the 18 to 25 group, and they should be coming into this voluntary blood donation. But the majority of the parents, they don't encourage them. They think that their own children's health will get affected, and once married, the people, the wives or the husbands don't allow wives to donate. So that's one impediment. And despite several efforts to bring awareness among people, it has not helped. I think to some extent some film stars and other people have tried, and they were successful only in very small pockets, but majority of the people still shy away. And probably the basic thing is we don't have a good database. We don't know who has which blood group, and more than 50% people don't know their own blood group. So that is what has to be done first. Like the date of birth is a compulsory data that is collected when a child is born. The blood group also should be collected, and it should be entered along with the date of birth certificate. So that and it should be electronically stored somewhere in a common place which can be accessed by all the blood banks at least, so that they can invite someone to come and voluntarily donate.
Is the Aadhaar project considering this as an option? Is it a part of the Aadhaar card data?
Yeah, could be. It is not right now, but I don't know how far it will be shared with the blood banks or something. But it's not being done. It's not being collected properly.
Yes, and I was just about to come to, as you said, there is no database. There's an estimate on your website. It says we need about 4 crore units of blood every year, and we just have about 10% of it. Yeah. So how did we arrive at this figures, and on what basis did you arrive at this figures?
Yeah, that is, I mean, this need is known. It's because the demand that we get at the blood banks, that is recorded, and we have several surveys and several calculations for that. And also we know how many people donate. So at the blood banks. So you know how many are sent back. So I mean right now actually it has slightly improved. I think out of 4 crores now we have about 70 lakhs or 80 lakh people donating blood, getting blood. But of course not all the blood need is in case of emergency. It may be some selective operations, or it can be for thalassemia or some other kind of where they can wait for some time and get blood. But still, for such a large population, where you hardly in a city, if 1% or 2% of the city population can donate, then also it will suffice. The need will be fulfilled. So we don't find even 1% of the population coming forward and donating blood.
Okay. Can I ask Mr. Sharif a question?
Yeah, please go ahead, because you will be the right person to give more details on friends2support.org, because it was Sharif and 5 of his friends who came up with this idea way back in 2005. And I happened to join with them later.
In fact, we heard extremely inspiring things about Mr. Sharif as well. So, Mr. Sharif, you will have to educate us a bit. My next question is, what are the current processes by which blood is being collected right now in India? what are the various ways, what are the various routes through which it's collected? I mean, voluntary blood donation is one thing. Otherwise, what is the source of blood bank?
Yeah, I would like to explain few things about the main drawbacks in the country, what is happening presently. Like many people donating blood in the blood donation camps, which are people conducting blood donation camps for various reasons, for their usage or for their goodwill, and they are collecting huge amount of packets in the blood donation camps, and there is no storage facility to store all these blood packets which they are collecting in these huge blood donation camps. But the common people doesn't know that this facility is not there, like storing facility of 2,000 packets or 3,000. People are coming forward and they are donating blood. They don't know that the blood is getting wasted, which they are donating in the blood donation camps. But the main fact is, many people, even they won't also tell to explain to people that the even the major blood banks also storing capacity will be maximum 200 or 300 or 500 limited packets facility. After that, the remaining packets, they're just throwing into the garbage, which is very bad, and we are feeling very unhappy about this thing. The second topic is some private unauthorized blood banks which are running all over the country. The blood bank will take 1 year certificate or 1 year certificate or authorization from IMA, a medical association, or Blood Transfusion Council of India, or from states. But the same certificate they use for remaining years, like if they have taken the certificate for the year 2004-2005, still they use the same certificate and they are running the blood bank and they collect the blood with uncertified professionals. Even this is also the major problem which we are facing, which our country is facing. And few blood banks are there.
I would we are not saying that I would like to just sum it up, Mr. Sharif. Just a second. I would just like to sum it up. You were saying that the main problem lies in lack of proper storage. One, because no blood bank has the capacity to take as much blood, and so in spite of people coming and donating blood, we have no way to store all that blood in a safe manner. That's one thing. Second is you're saying that there are many unauthorized, private banks which get a license from IMA, and then they do things that they're not supposed to do under that certification, under that license. That's the two things.
Yes. Mr. Usha, I'd like to just step in here. See, what Sharif was saying is not about having the storage facility as such. Maybe we have the storage facility, but we don't need such a huge quantity at one time on a single day, because our needs in a particular city or in a particular locality are much less. So if we say in Hyderabad or Vijayawada, if we collect some 5,000 or 4,000 units of blood, we don't need so many packets of blood of a particular blood group for 4 or 5 days. So what is happening is all this blood is collected and then diverted to other smaller towns or neighboring towns. And the next day, when someone is in need of that particular blood group, we don't find donors, because all voluntary donors or those who have the willingness to donate, they have already donated at a major camp. So finding another voluntary donor becomes a very big problem. So, and also the transportation, we don't have the cold chain which can really maintain it at the levels which is safe for transfusion. We can't maintain it at the same level from the time it is collected at the massive blood donation camps till it is transfused to a patient.
Okay, fine. Generally, is this the process? I mean, what is the process for somebody to set up a blood bank? Do we just get a license from IMA? What are the
No,
requirements?
it's not IMA actually. It's not IMA. We have this NACO, and at the state level we have this drug administration department, which gives the licenses actually for setting up a blood bank. So what Sharif has pointed out is absolutely correct. They take licenses, and they keep on, and recently the Controller and Auditor General pointed out all these lapses, and the entire media published about it in the affairs in Andhra Pradesh. There are at least 35 government blood banks which are running like that without license, and there are about 100 private blood banks which are running with licenses of 2004, which expired in 2004 or which expired in 2009, and they still continue to do that. And there is also another way of collecting it at the testing centers. Like you have small diagnostic centers where they do blood sample testing. So at the same place, unauthorizedly they collect the blood, the entire packet of blood, and they sell it outside because it's in great demand. So such things had come into light in several districts of Andhra Pradesh, and the police and the drug administration department had come together, and they arrested several people, and this has reduced a bit, but it's still going on. Several private hospitals still resort to such kind of collection of blood.
As such, if we go to a very fundamental level, if I were a patient or an attendant to a patient and I am trying to get blood from a bank, what is the process that I should undergo? Is it free of cost, and what do the rules say?
No, it's not free of cost. In India, actually the government has allowed all the blood banks to charge around 350 to 400 rupees for carrying out all the basic tests, like for HIV or HB, hepatitis, and all other things. So for which they incur about 300 or 350 rupees and another 50 rupees of overheads. So they have to pay for that. But a person coming from a government hospital, he gets it free. But all others paying category of patients, they have to pay a minimum of 400, and government has allowed the blood banks to charge up to 750 or 800 rupees because each blood bank has a different kind of overhead. So the average cost of any group of blood is around 600 rupees in India right now. So you pay between 600 and 800, and you get a packet of blood. That's about 350 ml of any group of blood.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
but
you have mentioned,
but there are many middlemen who sell each unit of blood up to 1500 to 2000 rupees in the outside market. So when someone wants blood, he doesn't try to get blood from a blood bank. He will just approach the local hospital, and the hospital, there are several touts or middlemen who just wait in the wings to approach these patients, and they'll arrange blood for you. So we also face similar problems because we have a large open database on our website, friends2support.org. So these middlemen also can access it. So whenever they find such prey, such people, gullible people, they just download the information from our website, and they promise them to arrange blood and charge between 1,000 and 2,000 rupees. We got several complaints like that in some cities, and we tried to take some action against such people.
Yeah, okay. So you have mentioned that they have to carry out certain tests to screen the blood, HIV and hepatitis. Can you please list out what are the, because considering blood safety, what are the main things, the main infections that could be present in the blood?
Yeah, I mean, it's mainly hepatitis and HB. The hepatitis and HIV. These are the two. Yeah. Yeah, hepatitis. Yeah. Sharif, go on.
Yeah, it's HIV.
Hello?
I mean,
Yeah.
HIV and hepatitis A, hepatitis B, HB percent like blood percentage in his body. These are the main four. Total there are eight tests they conduct. Before, after collecting the blood, they screen the blood for these eight tests, including HIV, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, and HB percent.
So this screening is actually mandatory for all blood banks, but in reality, does it happen? Do all the blood banks follow the rules in a stringent manner, or are there gaps there?
No, unfortunately, not many follow it, but you'll be surprised that in India, in some places, there is a batch test also done. Like if there are 10 donations at one time, the samples from 10 packets are pulled together, and the entire thing is made into one sample, and that sample is tested. And if they find something wrong with the entire sample, they go ahead to test the remaining all the 10 individually. Otherwise, the entire batch is passed as having passed the test, all the mandatory tests. I mean, the minor costs, they want to save those costs also. At a time when they charge such huge amounts from the patients, they don't take care to even test properly and stamp it and give it.
Okay. Recently, we have observed that there's something called a replacement blood the policy that the hospitals are following. Whenever we have somebody going for a surgery, they ask the family to donate some 4 units or 5 units of blood and as a replacement sample, and then they give us the required blood. So is this, do you see any problem in this process?
No, I don't see any problem. I mean, as per the government policy, they have taken a decision to provide the necessary blood to all people, whether it's in a private hospital or a government hospital. Any patient has to be provided the required blood by the government. That is the policy decision taken by the central government. But which is at the implementation level, it's not possible in today's conditions. So, if some hospital is asking for a replacement blood, I don't think it's a very bad proposition till we are self-sufficient in providing blood. So, why can't someone donate blood for someone else and that blood be stored in but at the same time, the management, the inventory management has to be proper. Just because you want a replacement blood, and if you in India, especially in Andhra Pradesh, we find B positive and O positive in very high numbers, around 53%. 53% of the total people. So population. So if you start getting so many units only from O positive and B positive, then where is the need for such quantity of those blood groups? So
if I have my patient going for surgery, is there any way for me to ascertain that the blood he is getting is safe?
I think that the only best way is to go and get the blood from a authorized blood bank, a licensed blood bank, and that too which has good reputation. So that I think in India you have to fend for yourself, and that's the only way you can do it. Or maybe after you get a packet of blood, get it tested in some other blood bank. For all, you get it screened. But screening takes a very long time. It takes about 5-6 hours. So that's why all the blood banks have to mandatorily follow the procedure of the first in, the first out policy. That is, if a blood packet is coming first, only that packet has to go out first. Not that if I have emergency and if I have brought three donors and I just get them donated and take the packet immediately along with me. I can't do that. I'm not supposed to do that. I have to take packets which were donated prior to my donors. So the earlier packets, they would have screened them and certified them as safe, and those packets should be given to me, not from the people whom I have brought, or whom through my contacts they have come and they have come to donate for my patient. So
I have actually, I know, because I kind of a follow-up for my question. I guess even if we are aware and we would like to get the blood that we are getting tested separately elsewhere, I'm not sure the hospitals will allow us to do that. Do they allow us? I mean, in case we demand, and this is of course presuming that we are aware that there could be a problem and that we want to get it tested.
yeah, I mean, see, that is all. So when you are aware, so you have to fight. You have to fight with the hospital also. You have to fight with the hospital and get it tested. If you are really so concerned and you want to do it, you have to fight with the hospital. Yes, many corporate hospitals don't allow you to do that. They say they will arrange, or if they can't arrange, they'll just ask you to go and get a packet from some blood bank. And you really don't have so much of time also to do all this. So suppose the operation is scheduled sometime in the afternoon, they'll tell you to get it in the morning. So when you get it in the morning by say 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, if the operation is at 1 o'clock, you don't have sufficient time to get it screened elsewhere and then bring it.
That is true.
That's the problem.
Yes, we have a question from Archana Ramesh. Archana is from Los Angeles. She wants to know what happens to the unused blood, or if there is too much blood that has been collected in a camp.
Yeah, actually, since we launched all this campaign in 2005, we have noticed that at several mass blood donation camps, they are just thrown into the drain. We have witnessed it, and I have myself gone and tried to stop mass blood donations at several places in Guntur, Vijayawada, and all those places. And being in the media, I have even written about the impact of such large collection of blood. I mean the side effects of such mass collection. And essentially all this extra blood, it goes down the drain, literally down the drain outside the blood bank, because not all the blood that is brought is safe enough to store there, because we don't have, as I told you earlier, there is no proper cold chain from the time it is collected at the blood donation camp and till it is screened and stored in the blood bank. So it goes waste, and literally each voluntary donor, when he donates 350 ml of blood, that's very precious. I mean, just think, we need minimum 3 months of time before we can make second donation. So just to create that amount of blood, in Indian currency we require today at least 10,000 rupees. So what you are donating is equivalent to 10,000 rupees to a patient, and if that goes waste, you can imagine how much we are wasting nationally.
Okay. There's another question from Srikanth, Los Angeles. Yes. Hello?
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, the question is from Srikanth, Los Angeles. So he says, my friend Shyam Sundar is a regular blood donor.
Yeah.
And one day he said he has hepatitis B. Does repeated blood donation, could it have caused it? Because he has been donating blood frequently, repeatedly. He wants to know if he could have contracted hepatitis B through blood donation.
It could be. It is quite possible. But it's not only due to his habit of donating several times, but the unsafe way of collecting it. Because the majority of the blood bank staff also have that threat of getting hepatitis. So that's why they are immunized for that. And so are we. The donors also have to be very careful while donating, not to donate at any blood bank. They have to see that they donate at the proper place, which is totally authorized, and also their practices are correct. So without that, you shouldn't be donating it. But frequent donation doesn't lead to hepatitis. I have myself donated 19 times, and I don't have any hepatitis or anything. Anything doesn't happen due to frequent donation.
Okay. So, do we have a national blood policy? Hello?
Hello, Usha Garu. I will also like to add one point here. Usually people...
Yes, please.
Yeah. Who are in need of blood, they approach blood bank. But some critical conditions, they need live transfusion. So the way I came to know about FCS is Friends to Support. One of my friends' father was diagnosed with critical condition, and then even though they could get blood from blood bank, but they wanted, live transfusion. But they don't, because it's so critical, and then they don't want to use the stored blood. So the thing, as Ramesh Garu and Sharif Garu were saying, many people are donating voluntarily to the blood bank, but the thing is, a lot of that blood is getting wasted. And the hospitals mostly need, the fresh blood samples, because it will be very good in the critical conditions. So that's how the platforms like Friends to Support comes into picture, and then it will be very useful.
Okay. My next question is, do we have a national blood policy? And if we do, what are the key features, and what are the loopholes that you see in the policy?
Sharif can take it.
Yes, Sharif Garu.
National blood policy.
I believe that there was an international conference, a national conference a couple of years back in Hyderabad, where this policy has been, very extensively discussed. So, what exactly is the policy, and what are its features? How comprehensive is it?
Yeah, they discuss, but they never follow any policy in this process. That is the biggest problem. Every year they conduct a 3 days or 2 days conference, and they discuss something.
Okay.
But they never follow a proper policy to supply blood to the needy. So this is where they are failing.
Yeah. So the national blood policy, it said it will provide blood to all the needy. That is one. And then it said the blood has to be essentially collected from voluntary donors, that is non-remunerated blood donors. Then screening of all the blood that is transfused, so that transmitted infections can be reduced. So this was their this thing. And also they wanted a national network of a database of blood banks.
Yes.
So that there is interconnect between the blood banks within a particular state, and also within a city, and also at the national level, so that live real time there is a check on which blood bank has how many units of which blood group, so that in case of need, one blood bank could give to the another blood bank or some patient somewhere else, which has also not been done. And only it is happening in pockets like Bangalore. There is one agency which is doing it, and now I understand only this month, in March this year, AP government has come up with such a decision, and the Drug Administration Department here has already gone into all the nitty-gritty of starting a website where they want to connect all the blood banks online, and they'll make it compulsory that any blood donation that happens at their blood bank has to be entered into the system first, and then only it should enter their storage. And also whenever a packet is given out, it should be entered there, so that they know how many packets are there, and who has donated, and what group is donated, and how much they hold.
Okay.
So I think that is coming up now.
Okay. There was also a proposal some time back to cancel the licenses of all private blood banks and probably make them all bring them all under the control of the government. Was it a very feasible idea or?
No, it's not feasible, and I also don't really support that argument. It should not be like that. I mean, we just can't say that just because it is private it's bad, or just because it's government it's good. They're both kinds, both sides. But yeah, there should be a strict way of controlling their running of a blood bank. So what we are doing through Friends to Support is only providing a database of voluntary donors, their contact information, so which is not available in India even today. So that is what we are doing. But after our work is over, the next job is the collection of blood, which is again of very bad quality. The entire thing is not properly regulated. No agency really supervises that, and you don't have proper supervision of trained personnel in the blood bank. I have donated 19 times and at in several cities in India. So I know how they behave with a donor, or how they really take blood from you. And all not many are really trained, and they don't do it properly.
Okay. There is an argument, it may sound a little romantic as such, but it says that, considering that all of us may need blood at one point of time or the other, if not ourselves, then somebody in the family. So there should be a policy whereby it's not donation, where you are made to feel that you are doing somebody a favor, or there's some charities involved. Instead of that, there has to be a policy for blood deposit, where on a periodical basis, somebody from the family or somebody, they just go and donate blood voluntarily.
No, actually, this system is already there. I mean, suppose you have an operation to undergo, say after 2 months or 3 months, say some cesarean operation for delivery, or maybe for some other kind of heart operation or anything, and if you are healthy enough to donate, you can donate your blood and keep it safe for your own use later.
Okay. No, Ramesh, what I mean is, supposing, if it's made mandatory for every family to contribute on a periodical basis, so that, there is enough supply, to meet the demand.
I think a big hue and cry will begin. They will say that all our politicians are eating money, now they are drinking our blood. So at least let them start doing it voluntarily first, then we can start thinking of making it mandatory.
Yes. Okay. My next question is, how big is the threat from professional donors? Who are professional donors, and what are the problems that we can expect from those kind of donors?
I think that has to a large extent come down right now, professional donors, because of good awareness by a lot of NGOs and some the big stars, film stars and other people. So now there is a trend that every film star, he organizes a blood donation camp on his birthday, or some on his wedding day or something like that. Anyway, that's a good thing. At least the youngsters, they inculcate the habit of donating blood. But that should not be encouraged for a long time. It should not be like that. It should be need-based. So what happens is, like Sharif was telling, a large scale of blood is wasted at the blood donation camps. That is true. Why should all of you donate on a single day? Why not you all register in Friends to Support and express your willingness to donate as and when you are asked to donate, so that your local blood bank has a continuous supply of blood of all blood groups. Suppose you are a particular group from a college or from a club or somewhere. So if you have a 1,000 database with you, or 1,000 people as membership, ask 10 people each week to go and donate, so that the local blood bank also has a continuous supply of all the blood groups. So that will be a better thing to do.
Okay, so I've heard of a scheme where Thalassemia Society has a group of people, and each donor is linked to a child so that they between the two of them they have a schedule in every month or every 2 months, and or two donors or three donors. You think those that kind of scheme is actually it's feasible and it's practicable solution?
Sharif?
Yeah, that's good for them. I mean, thalassemia people, they need, I mean, if we allocate 4 donors for one patient, so that they need 15 days, once in a 15 days or once in a 1 month for every patient. So if we can allocate 4 donors, so each donor will donate once in a 3 months. Then they will get blood continuously for till their requirement fulfills. So actually, I advised this solution to them also, Thalassemia Society, Sickle Cell Society, which is there in Hyderabad.
Yes. Okay. And what was the response? Hello?
Actually, I think
in actual they didn't respond properly. They are using a database and they are calling donors and they are taking blood from them. But the solution which I have suggested, they are not following as per my knowledge.
They are not following. I see. Okay.
If they follow the process, if they follow this method, then it will be easy for each and every thalassemia patient.
Yes, at least that it gives them a lot of peace of mind to know that somebody is there to give them blood on time. They don't have to rush around for donors.
Yes.
I would like.
Even I suggested a program name also, dedicated donor to the such patient.
Yes.
Dedicate 4 donors to them, so that these donors will only donate to them, to that particular patient.
Okay. Yeah. And talking of voluntary blood donation, I would like to hear about. We would like to know what are the experiences that you have been through. I mean, as voluntary blood donation goes, there could be many kinds of responses. Why people do it? There could be 100 reasons why people would want to donate blood. Have you come across any interesting instances, either when you were campaigning for it or when you were donating blood yourself?
No, before F2S, I used to donate blood in my college to a lot of blood banks as part of NSS and all other organizations. But I didn't know that most of the blood they collect will not be used because either it might be because of the transportation issues or storage issues or any other issues. So after knowing that fact, then it was actually very shocking to me, because you go voluntarily and donate your blood. And also, as initially Ramesh Garu said, that most of the people face the no from the family, because when I was saying that I will go and donate my blood, and my grandmother, my parents, even though everyone is educated, then they say just because out of their love, they say that okay, because you are a girl and then you should not donate, all such kind of but I guess the side people there has to be an awareness, and I think at least in the educated groups and the colleges, and people are aware that okay, it is safe to donate blood, and after 3 months, whatever the blood you have donated, you will regain that blood. And coming to SOS, I used to work as an RJ in All India Radio, and then one of my friends asked me to do a special program on SOS. The main motivation I got to go immediately and talk to SOS is one of my friends, as I have said, my friend's father was in critical condition, and even though they got there was a lot of blood available in blood banks, the doctors refused to use that. So they wanted to have live transfusion. So they were searching for people, and then because in the corporate companies you can actually send mass emails to all the companies' email chains. So that's how actually I got to know that they are in need of blood, and then I immediately went there because it's the same blood group as mine. Then they told that I thought the condition would be more critical, but they told that there is a site, the site called Friends to Support, and then we got actually list of donors from there. and then we call them, and then there are a lot of people who voluntarily come forward and then donated blood, and it really saved his life at that point. You know, immediately when they needed it, and they got it. So that actually kind of, you know, touched me, and I thought many people should know this about this site. This is a platform where, you know, if you are willing to donate, then you register. And then if there are some others who need it, then they can use this platform. And also there was, in the company, in the previous company where I used to work, one of my friends, not friends, friends' apartment watchman's wife was going through cesarean operation, and then it was a very difficult delivery situation. And he didn't know. The watchman didn't know anything about this site, and he doesn't know how to use the internet also. But he just mentioned that, okay. We need blood, and then immediately our friends actually got the blood group and then called the donors, available donors, and then they got that, and they think that this friends2support.org and all the donors, like, you know, Aapabandhavulu in Telugu they say, like people who come and help them when they are in need, they really, it's a very great feeling and satisfaction which you get, even though I didn't donate, but I just actually helped giving the site information. Still they feel that, okay, the gratitude they express, it's really very touching. So that's how I kind of associate with SOS, and then it's very interesting and very satisfying job.
Okay, I see. That's fantastic. I mean, it's quite inspiring. But as such, you know, because as you see, Friends to Support, when you started off, it must have been a very difficult thing. I mean, it must have taken quite some time for you to get through to people and then build up this, amazing database. So, what were the challenges? What was your USP? How was it that you actually managed to enlist so many volunteers?
Sharif Garu,
challenges are in these almost 6.5 years, we have faced many challenges. First thing is people, they just, they never accepted, in the beginning they never accepted that we are building blood donors, voluntary blood donors platform in a web. Like people were not believing this platform. Like how can we build this community, blood donors community, in a website? So in the beginning we had one-to-one we explained the concept to each and every one of our known persons, or relatives, or friends, or associates in the companies. And in those days, every week we used to conduct a small volunteers meeting in parks, in colonies. And we used to visit offices, small offices, like it's a chain of marketing process we followed, and after that chain mailing process. And once people started getting benefited from this platform, after that they realized the importance of this platform, and they also promoting without our knowledge. So that's why this concept got popularized, and many, like we in the beginning days we requested our friends to please register and please donate blood. After once they donated first time, they touched with the patient's responses, and the patients they have seen the patient's happiness in their eyes, and after that they continuing this blood donation process. In the beginning days, we requested our friends, because they never, they never donated blood. After once they donated, they started donating blood, and they have continued this process, and still they are donating, and they are motivating their family members, they are motivating their partners, they are motivating their colleagues, like associates, everyone. And next year onward, like in the 2006 year, we started promoting our cause by awareness walks, awareness campaigns, and cycle rallies, bike rallies, 10K walks, 5K walks in major cities. like not only in Andhra Pradesh, in Noida, in Pune, in Bangalore, in Chennai, in Delhi, likewise. And slowly we are promoting this concept through social media networking. People approaching us from all over the country, like from other states. Because like-minded people are there. Many people are there to do something for our society and to do something in the blood donation sector, but they doesn't know how to start, start the first step. So after they coming to know about this friends support, and they approached us and they joined hands with us, and after that they are also become key persons in those particular states. And they are still associated with us, and they are still promoting this concept. From their friend circle, and they send mails, invitation mails, and requested to them. And slowly, people getting blood, and the registered volunteers, they responded very well. And after getting their responses, people started believing the friends support concept. Likewise, now. We are very happy with this process, but in the beginning days, we struggled a lot to convince people. Many people questioned us why we are doing. They are thinking that we are getting some benefit with friends support. So they never accepted that we are doing this for the people. So after that,
I guess that's a
come to
challenge
know about
all
genuinity of
the
this
development
concept.
professionals today.
Yeah, please.
Yes. We have Sneha from NRI Samay team. She's online. She has a question. Sneha, just go on.
Yeah, hi everybody, and it's nice to have you all, and then I'm listening the show. I have one question regarding Hi everybody. My name is Sneha. This is a question I donated blood so many times when I was in India, in Bangalore. I used to donate voluntarily for free, and then, they used to, because I used to track how my blood used to get used to. So I used to track each thing, like how they tested and how much they are charging, even though they claim that they are, they conduct these free camps and all, and they say that, it is free. I noticed they're selling the blood for around 500 rupees to the patients, and when I questioned them, like, I gave it for free and why you are charging patients, then they said they conduct so-and-so tests and it costs around 350 to 400, and then 100 rupees they keep it for the service charges, and they gave an explanation for that, which even though I satisfied and I keep on giving them, but still I want to make sure, is it really true, because there is always a gap between trust and, second time when I go to the same organization, I have this mistrust on them. So I just want to make sure that the reality, how much money a blood bank really, spends to test the blood, even though it is given voluntarily.
Yeah, you're rightly pointed out that. Actually, it is actually costly affair if you really screen the entire blood as per the rules. So, and it costs them around 400 rupees. But one thing is the central government should subsidize that in the health sector. We subsidize gold imports. We don't. We get 90,000 crores of gold every year into India, and that is allowed at a very cheap price. But just taking 1% or 2% out of that, those duties, if we increase on gold, we can actually subsidize this blood screening cost and supply blood free of cost to the people. But there is no one in the government to take such kind of decision, because this will become very unpopular with the gold lobby. They'll not do it. So what is needed is subsidizing all this screening of blood, because it really costs about 400 rupees for any good blood bank to screen the entire blood and then certify that it is safe, or discard it if it is not safe. So naturally they can't bear it from their pocket, so they pass it on to the patient.
So the intention why I donate my blood free for is to reach that to a poor patient. But looks like there is no poor patient get benefit from my blood donation, because patient at least have to be rich enough to pay that 500 rupees, you know. So in what way, like anything will reach a poor person? That is my question, overall question.
Yeah, now actually in Andhra Pradesh, if you hold a white ration card, that is if your income is below 1 lakh per annum, then you get blood free, even without this screening charges. From government blood banks, you can get this that kind of blood. So that's but very limited scope. So generally, not all get blood from government blood banks. They have to sometimes forcibly get it from somewhere else because lack of a particular group in a government blood bank. So they have to get it from some other private blood bank and they have to pay for it.
So from the donor side, is there a way to ensure that it reaches the low-income group people? I mean, can we donate at certain places?
As of now we don't have any kind of mechanism that way, and also we can't ensure that it goes only to them. How do you know that a particular low-income group person would need it immediately?
Yes.
We can't keep it for a low-income group person. So the best thing is to subsidize that through Central. We give so much of subsidies to all our industries and all wealthy people for all wrong reasons. So basic policy decision that has to be taken, which has to be done in India. They have to subsidize the entire, because this is an essential product for saving lives. So it should be considered as an essential drug, and like all essential drugs are subsidized, this also has to be subsidized in a country like in India, where majority of the people are unable to afford it.
Yes. Okay. Sharif Garu mentioned about awareness campaigns that were conducted. So considering that, I mean, when we talk of mass campaigns, where you mentioned that film stars are involved, as when government launches such campaigns, do you think there should be a change in focus? I mean, how do you motivate more people to come forward?
Yeah, our main vision is, creating awareness than collecting blood. Because if we create awareness, then automatically people come forward to donate blood. And we are not asking people to donate blood unnecessarily. Because there is lot of requirement is there, which is not fulfilling. So why we are donating without any reason in the donation camps? So please be ready for the blood donation and register yourself voluntarily as a blood donor, and please donate blood when there is requirement.
Okay.
So,
as a mass
our vision is like this, and we are please continue.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. Hello.
I think Usha dropped off.
Okay, she got disconnected.
I think Usha had to drop off, so we will continue this show.
Okay.
Anyway, at the tail end of the show, so just want to wrap it up in a couple of minutes. So towards the end of the show, we would like to know your message to our listeners and the importance of blood donation, because we discussed about the wastage of it, and then we discussed about the logistic problems and all those things. But towards the end, what really matters? Can you sum it up, Sharif?
Yeah. Dear listeners, please educate everyone to donate blood. And India and everywhere there is a lot of requirement is there. So we don't know when we need blood to our loved ones. So do not hesitate to donate blood, and please, encourage every person to become voluntary blood donor. And with our blood, one donation, we can save 3 lives. So our blood will become in 3 particles and will save 3 lives. So please invite all your Indians and all your friends to register as a voluntary blood donor in www.frontstosupport.org to bring million of smiles to all our Indians.
Very well said. I would like to ask same question to Lakshmi. You want to add anything?
Just to pass this word and pass this information about to all your friends, even though you are in US or UK or anywhere abroad. But please do pass on this word. So you never know who can use this, and even it can be our loved ones also. So it's always good to have awareness, and then the more donors we have in the registered in the site, then it will be useful to many people.
Okay, great. So let me check if Ramesh is back. Ramesh, are you back on the call?
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, nice. Usha, are you back too?
I think she is not yet back.
Okay, great. So Ramesh, I'm asking about conclusive statements. So maybe you can tell about how people can come and support you. The Friends to Support organization. How can people come and give more support in your efforts?
Yeah, I think the first and foremost, I'll appeal to people in India to come and also people in the US, if they're listening to this, ask their relatives and their friends in India to come and register themselves as voluntary blood donors on this website, so that people around them, their own friends, their own family members get benefited out of this, and they don't have to really search for a blood donor in a hard way, in a physical manner, but they can search online within a very short time and get a voluntary donor. That's one. And if you are unable to donate blood because of some health problems or your health condition, then please support this by spreading this idea and telling your friends and relatives about this website, so that they can come and register and start donating. So we don't collect any money for this. We run with our own funds. We don't accept donations for this. So please tell people not to give money to anyone in the name of Friends to Support. We don't accept donations for any activity that is carried out by us. So, and if they can come up with a new idea of promoting this website, they are welcome. They can promote it on Facebook, they can promote it on Google Plus or any social networking website they are part of, and it can become their electronic signature in all their official and their personal emails, so that people come to know of this. So that's how we have been doing it for the past 6.5 years. That will be good. And actually we want to start a toll-free number in India, for which there is a large requirement of funds to start that. So since we don't take funds, if someone is interested in running a helpline through which they can tell people whether a particular blood group is available in their town or not, they can always be part of our organization, and they can start it if they can afford. Maybe in a small way in single town or in a state or the entire district, or maybe the entire country or part of the country, where depending on their financial status and capability to do some philanthropic activity.
Okay, excellent. And for the volunteers who want to come forward, how should they contact you?
Yeah, I mean, it's there on the website. If they go to the www.friendstosupport.org website, there is a button. They can just fill up that join as a volunteer, and Sharif looks into that. Sharif, and he'll be sent a questionnaire, and once we are satisfied that he can really work with us, yes, he can go ahead and promote it. So our only intention of screening a volunteer is that no misuse of Friends to Support name is made anywhere. That's only thing. Otherwise, they don't have to pay any money for that, or don't have to do anything except for spending their time in promoting this concept.
Okay, that is a great message, and we want to thank every one of the participants. We want to thank Ramesh, Sharif, and Lakshmi from Friends to Support organization. And we want to thank Usha for hosting an excellent show.
Thank you
we
for
also
having
want to
us
thank,
on the show.
Great, thank you.
Thank
so
you,
we also
thank you,
want to
sir.
thank all the audience. Okay, go ahead. So friends, so this has been an excellent show today, and please remember to come back next week to listen to another great show. It will be with Shankar Rao, MLA, Secunderabad MLA, who has been fighting with the corrupt ministers and chief ministers, MPs, and a lot of people, and he's been a lone warrior for a while, for a long time. So we will talk live with him, and please come back same time. So next Saturday we will be live with him. Until then, please enjoy this excellent music.